Mm.
All right. Ready when you are.
Okay, I'm going to give Owen just another second or two to join us here.
Bob, in lieu of Owen's personal situation that he had earlier today, I think we should proceed. If he can join us, that'll be great. Let's not stress him out.
Tracy, I said thank you very much for your recommendation. We will go with that. So that's great. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is the City Commission meeting for March 16, 2021. Thank you, everybody, for being here. If you're attending by Zoom, that means you have signed up on the city website, which is you're able to do until 5:30 the evening of the meeting. You can also call in. And if you are participating in the meeting by phone, if you do want to comment at any point in the procedures here tonight, we remind you that it is *9 on your phone to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself once you are recognized. And also, we do welcome public comments in writing, and those comments can be sent up till noon at commission@greatfallsmt.net. So thank you, staff. Thank you, folks who are watching in a variety of ways. Thank you for those who are here in public. We will have a call to order, and as we always do in our city commission meetings, we're asking you to all rise wherever you are and help us pledge of allegiance, if you could, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the
and
republic
republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you again, everybody. It's a beautiful night. Appreciate you being with us in the meeting here tonight. So Lisa, if you could we have roll call, please.
Mayor Kelly,
I'm here.
Commissioner Houck,
Here.
Commissioner Robinson,
Here,
Commissioner Tryon,
Here.
Commissioner Mull.
Here.
Quorum is present, Your Honor.
Thank you, Lisa. And then Greg, if you would introduce yourself and let us know who's attending your staff attending electronically, et cetera.
Sure. Sorry, I went on mute because when I stand, it's not a great shot, but I was pledging the flag. I was doing the pledge. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Kelly and Commissioners. My name is Greg Doyle. I'm the city manager, and I think I've got most everybody, but I know I'm going to forget somebody. We've got Craig Raymond in the Gibson room, along with Jeremy Jones, Steve Herrig. Sarah Sexy's online here with us. And then Lisa, of course, is the clerk. And then there's somebody next to Craig that I can't see. So whoever that is, there we go. Paul Scavina. There we go. Thanks.
Okay, that's everybody. Appreciate it. Greg, do you have any changes to the agenda?
One change, Your Honor, the March 2nd draft minutes were updated. Minor update.
Okay, appreciate that. And then my colleagues here on the commission, any changes to the agenda you'd like to see tonight? Okay, very good. Then we'll proceed. So any conflict disclosures or ex parte communications that any of us have to report regarding any of the topics tonight?
oh,
Okay, that's good. Very good. Thank you. And then Owen, I'm going to jump into you if I can, please, on community health initiatives. Do you have some updates for us?
well, I'm sorry I don't have a longer report. I did have a couple people, one person, and then they had to beg out, and then another person, and they had to beg out, and I was out of town last week, so I wasn't able to get a third one, but I do want to report that it's much easier now to get your vaccinations. Give you an example. Well, let me tell you the rules first. We're at B plus or B1 plus or B2 plus, I forget. Anyway, they've changed it from being 70 or older or having medical problems down to 60 and older, and if you have medical problems, down to 16. And it's much easier to get it. The city county health departments doing them, but there's a lot of other people. I'll give you an example. I have a friend who had heard that some of the drugstores were giving him, so he got on Albertsons.com and signed up and got a choice of which vaccination he wanted, and he went in there the next day to get his first one. So if you're interested in getting a vaccination, and I urge everybody to get a vaccination, it's fairly easy. If you're going to do it through the city county health department, get on the website, which is part of the county's website, and sign up that way. And you can sign up, and all you do is sign up, and they'll call you with an appointment time or an appointment availability, and you can decide which time that you want. So it's not big long lines anymore, and the more people that are vaccinated, the sooner this thing will get over. Well, that's my report.
Thank you, Owen. I will note that there is some still scarcity of the vaccine around town, and they're working on getting more supply. And I also read just prior to the meeting that Governor Gianforte, as of April 1, is going to lower that age to 16, regardless of underlying medical conditions. And the effort is to bring in as much of the supply as possible and distribute it to as many folks over the age of 16 that we can going forward. So April 1, another big wave of people will be able to participate. And until then, again, check the county website, because it does have listed in there places like Sam's and Walgreens and CVS, et cetera, and Albertsons, as Owen referred to. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great news about going down to 16. I'm sorry I missed that. I was out of town.
That makes me eligible then. So I'm really ready to go, which would be great. So we'll take, you too, Greg, we'll take petitions and communications now. This is an opportunity for public comment on any matter that's not on the agenda tonight, and that's within the jurisdiction. And come on up to the podium if you're in there to just talk about something that, again, that is not on the agenda tonight. And come on up, and you have 3 minutes, and tell us your name and whether you're a city resident. So is there anyone, Craig, in the Gibson room who wants to have public comment at this point?
Appear so, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
It does not appear so.
Okay, thanks very much. Then we'll go to the phones. Lisa, is there anyone on the phones who wanted to speak? And again, it's *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute. Lisa?
No one with their hand raised at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. So then we'll go on to the agenda. We'll start off with agenda item number 3, which is the appointment to the Housing Authority Board of Commissions. And this, our action here is to appoint a tenant member to the Great Falls Housing Authority Board of Commissioners for the remainder of a 2-year term through June 30, 2022. I am looking for a motion from one of the commissioners, please.
Your Honor,
Commissioner Moe?
I move that the City Commission appoint Lyle W. LaPrey as a tenant member for the remainder of a 2-year term through June 30, 2022 to the Great Falls Housing Authority Board of Commissioners.
A second.
We have a second from Commissioner Houck. Is there anyone who wants to speak to this? Any public comment regarding the appointment of Mr. LaPrey? Anyone in the Gibson room there, Craig?
No, sir.
Okay, apparently not. Anyone on the phones, Lisa, who wants to offer an opinion?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. So just as a comment for us, we've got Mr. LaPrey applying for this. He is a tenant member. These guys do an important job, and I'd like to thank him for stepping forward with his application. If there's no other comments, I'll take a vote. Mary, go ahead, Commissioner.
I just very much appreciated his remark that although he has no experience, he's willing to learn something new. And that's exactly what we like to see in people that are seeking to become involved in public office. So good for him.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so all those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay and raise your hand. Okay, Mr. LaPrey, if you're out there listening, thank you very much. This will take us to item number 4, which is the appointment to the Audit Committee. And our job here is to appoint one member to the Audit Committee to to fill a private citizen position for a 3-year term through June 30, 2023. And do I have a motion, please?
Your Honor,
Mr. Moe.
I move that the city commission appoint John Dutzer to the audit committee to fill a private citizen position for a 3-year term through June 30th, 2023.
Okay. Do we have
I
a second?
second.
Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate that. Is there any public comment in the Gibson room regarding the appointment of Mr. Dutzer to the audit committee? Okay.
No.
Is there anyone on the telephone, Lisa?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. I will make the comment that Jeremy Trebus is completing his 2nd term in June. He served for, I think, 6 years now, and possibly longer. I really don't know how long it was, but he's been a good servant, and we appreciate his time there. Jeremy is a CPA, and appreciate his service to us. So we did meet. The audit committee met and reviewed some of the applications, and I can tell you, we have 3 very qualified applicants. And there will be a position open with Jeremy stepping down so that the appointment we make tonight will fill one of those slots. And I'd like to advise my colleagues here that we want to keep those applications open of the other 2 for the new opening that's going to be created when Mr. Trebus steps off. So it is John Dutzer. Is there any further discussion regarding the applicant?
Mayor Kelly, just a clarification. It's actually Jennifer Malich who's stepped down as she's moved. This is one of those commissions and boards that we've been recruiting for a couple of years. We've actually had an absence. So it was very nice to have those 3 applicants come forward and have us be able to consider them. And it sounds like we can hold them as we wait to determine if we have that next opening.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeremy.
Thank you, Tracy, for the clarification. Right. And that'll be happening. Yeah, Rick?
I think that, Greg's tactic works. He always talks about how we got some exciting positions opening up on the audit board, man. It works, Greg.
And he was.
3 applicants.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
3 incredibly qualified applicants too. Okay, with that in mind, all those in favor say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Say nay, indicate raising a hand. Okay, thank you, John. We look forward to seeing you at the audit committee. Appreciate it. And then that takes us to neighborhood councils. We don't have a neighborhood council representative that spoke to us at the work session. Is there anyone from neighborhood councils there who'd like to give a report in the Gibson room? Craig? Okay, and then Lisa, any neighborhood council folks on the phone?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Then we will boards and commissions. Any reports from any of my fellow commissioners who have been attending any boards around town? Okay. All right, very good. Then we will go on to the most exciting part of the night, and that is the report from the city manager, Mr. Doyen.
Good evening again, Mayor Kelly and Commissioners. Quick update on the Aim High Big Sky Rec Center. The conditional use permit that's required in order for the project to be located at Lyons will be heading to the planning board on March 23rd. And then depending on their determination, will be advanced to the city commission for consideration as well. Of course, it's a public process. Folks are invited to attend to learn about the project and to make public comment on it. You've heard me talk a little bit about the location on 10th Avenue South and some of the traffic concerns in the neighborhood. The design team has sent a letter in to Montana Department of Transportation, and they have a proposed design, which is really pretty much existing conditions that are out there, maybe with a few alternatives. But that's being submitted or has been submitted and reviewed by DOT, and we'll kind of keep you up to date on the status of that. But they're digging in deep on the site plan. There's a environmental review that needs to be completed and should be pretty close to submittal, working with Malmstrom Air Force Base on that as well. We had a discussion that was really focused on the entrance and the plaza concept to the facility. They're working through issues such as water changeover in the pool and what's required for sewer line diameter to accommodate that volume of water to facilitate those changes. dealing with stormwater pond locations and designs, and also parking. There's a minimum of 130 parking stalls required for a facility this size. They're considering trying to expand it to 180 to make sure that we're not overflowing traffic out onto the residential streets. And again, on the traffic side of things, there are traffic counters in place in that neighborhood and around, and we're monitoring the traffic counts, and we'll have more to say on that when the results of that comes in. Some of the architectural features are being looked at as well. They've rearranged from a preliminary design that you saw some of the administrative desk areas. One area that they're struggling a little bit with is storage, specifically storage for all the rec center related activities and also for military training, and properly positioning the guard offices so they can observe both pools and so forth, and also laundry room storage designs. There was some concerns about the roof design. We've addressed that. The current design was modified a little bit. They basically, and I'm going to say this in a non-architectural way, have a kind of a double drain system in place, and I think they've relocated some of the mechanical. So as the rain and snow and ice come off of that sloped roof, it's going to be drained properly from the building. The architect is also performing, because he's LEED certified, review. It's about 50% done. This was brought up a little bit earlier at the work session about, energy compliance and energy reduction efforts for that facility. So there was a comment made that that was being, there's a process by which a group was providing input, and that has certainly happened. But a lot of that is also just simply being driven by the state's energy code as they go through the requirements for a facility like that. But in terms of LEED, we're not going to be shooting for a LEED certified building, but we're going to be checking the boxes on that certification as we go through it. The police chief recruitment is underway. I think I had shared with the commission previously that I was assessing what options that I had, and after contemplating those options, I've decided to begin the search with an internal recruitment first. Those internal candidates will need to submit by March 19th. And then I'll review those internal candidates and probably conduct some interviews. And if we have enough to advance to a more thorough process with the public, we'll do that. And I'm anticipating that will probably be the case. And as I've indicated, there'll be some public involvement with that process through the neighborhood councils, a specific community panel, and probably our department head team, and then final interview with me. It was also brought up earlier about the America Rescue Plan. So President Biden signed a $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan on March 11th. It includes about $350 billion in direct aid to states, territories, tribes, cities, and counties. Some of those uses that will be allowed include the ability of those jurisdictions to meet some revenue gaps because of COVID. It will be potentially utilized for mitigating economic harm from the pandemic, and will allow those jurisdictions to make investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure through a state administrative program. And so the city is slated to receive a little over $20 million in 2 payments over the course of the next year. That is a significant amount of funding from the federal governments. I've been visiting with the commission a little bit about this in the past, and ultimately the course and use of those funds will be determined by the city commission. But I've suggested a few broad potential uses. One is to obviously address direct economic impact due to COVID, preparing the city next time around for whatever COVID 2021 is, a little stronger public safety posture, taking what we've learned through this pandemic and applying that in either facility design or employee safety situations. tax relief as appropriate, recognizing the economic impact to taxpayers in Great Falls, and then infrastructure support that may include economic recovery efforts for industry and housing. There's two buckets of money that has come from the federal government, one by way of the state through reimbursements. One was the CARES Act, the other one was the American Rescue Plan funds that I was just talking about. And so both of those buckets can be used a little bit differently. And I would just communicate to the commission and the community that we don't have the specifics on how the most recent relief funds can be used. We have an idea, but we don't know what requirements or restrictions there will be for that $20 million allocation. So we've been working internally to develop a prioritized recommended list for the commission to consider. We've been doing that for a few weeks, but now we know what the full amount is. We'll be more diligent to get that before the commission, and we will bring that to you at a future work session, and then you can take it from there and let us know what additional information you might need. So that's how we're kind of working through it. There's still more information that we're going to need to make sure we know exactly what we can and can't use it for, and how we could complement maybe the first allocation with a second, vice versa. With regard to the CBDG program, there's new CBDG and home allocations available for application. There's $808,000 in CBDG funds that were received by the city, and about 280 and change for home funds. So those applications, of course, when submitted, must meet eligible activities, and that can be done through planning and community development by interested parties. And that concludes my report, unless the commission has any specific questions. Thank you.
Greg, thank you. I know we probably all have lots of questions about that $20 million, but I would suggest that we wait till, you guys vet that out, the process, et cetera, and come forward to us with some recommendations. But any questions or comments for the city manager from my colleagues? Okay, very good. Greg, thank you for the report. We will move on. We have a consent agenda tonight. This routine day-to-day items that require action. We can pull these from the agenda if we want to for separate discussion, but let me read through them first if I could. And I do have to read through them. Item 6 are the minutes of the February 25th, 2021 Special City Commission meeting. Item 7 are minutes from the March 2nd, 2021 City Commission meeting. Item 8 are total expenditures of $2,160,631 for the period of February 17th, 2021 through March 3, 2021, to include claims over $25,000 in the amount of $1,803,208. Item 9 is the contracts list. Item 10 is to approve the application for the Assistance for Firefighters Grant in the amount of $35,080 for the purchase of software and equipment for the Fire Prevention and Safety Program. Item 11 is to accept the Montana Disaster and Emergency Services Grant Award, in the amount of $397,749.75, and authorize the city manager to execute the Hazard Mitigation Assistance Agreement for the Missouri River North Bank Stabilization. And item 12 is to set a public hearing for April 6th, 2021 on Resolution 10392, amending Section 4C of Resolution 10375, establishing the rates, fees, and penalties associated with Title 10 of the Official Code of the City of Great Falls pertaining to the city's parking system. That'll be on April 6th. Item 13 is to award the construction contract in the amount of $828,532 to Planned and Engineered Construction, Inc. for the sanitary sewer trenchless rehab phase 23, and authorize the city manager to execute the construction contract documents. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Honor,
Commissioner Robinson?
I move that the City Commission approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you.
A
Do I have
second.
Thank you, Commissioner Tryon. Is there any public comment regarding any of the items on the agenda? I'll go first to the telephones. Lisa, anyone on the phones?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Craig, I'm looking at you, brother. Anyone in the Gibson room who wants to comment on the agenda items?
No, Your Honor.
Consent agenda. Okay, very good. Then if we have a motion and a second, and then I will take a vote. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
You need to ask for commission discussion, if you would,
Oh,
please.
is there any,
Your Honor.
sorry, just rattling through this. Thank you for the stop sign. Is there any discussion with my colleagues up here regarding any of the items? No? Okay, very good. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate the applause there. Then I will take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Hands, nay? No? Okay, very good. That will bring us to some of the business tonight. And it looks like we have a fair amount of backbenchers back there who are dying to come forward. So let's get to it. Item 14 is Resolution 10386 to vacate the alley easement legally described as the west 20 feet of lots 1B, 1D, 1C, 1G, 1FF, 1FA, 1FB, 1FC, 1FD, and 1FE. Sounds like a bingo game of Sun River Park Edition in Great Falls, Montana. This is presented by Craig Raymond on behalf of a plan that was initiated by Gary and Nancy Martin. We are going to have a public hearing on this, but Craig, if you would go, please.
Well, thank you, and I'm not going to repeat that legal description, so I'm just going to keep it very basic. Gary and Nancy Martin, together with the majority of the affected adjoining property owners, have requested that the city vacate the undeveloped alley between 24th Street Southwest and 25th Street Southwest from Central Ave West and 2nd Ave Southwest. The alley proposed to be vacated has never been improved or maintained by the city. Some property owners have also physically blocked access with landscaping features, trees, fences, and even storage sheds. And many probably aren't even aware that they have approached on a city-owned right-of-way. As you know, based on our previous conversations and previous testimony, is that this is really a unique situation. Initially in 1952, the property in question was conveyed to Cascade County as an easement right-of-way. Then in 1954, the property was annexed into the city. Between 1952 and the present day, the right-of-way has never been developed and maintained as an alley. Apparently, a few property owners have also used it to access their rear yards in some cases over the years on unimproved surfaces. Staff is also aware that support for the alley vacation is not unanimous. Our understanding is that there have been disputes amongst neighbors as well as code enforcement complaints due to how the right-of-way has been used over the years. What we also know is that even though access to the property will change, each parcel will still be able to maintain access to the public right-of-way along the platted streets and avenues, as opposed to the unofficial, unimproved, unmaintained alley. And just for everyone's information, any existing utilities will continue to be supported and protected by any necessary easements that may be needed. As such, the City Public Works and Northwestern Energy is supportive of the vacation. Staff requests that the City Commission conduct a public hearing and adopt resolution 10386. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig, for that. At this point, I'd like to ask if the applicant would like to make a presentation to the commission for Mr. and Mrs. Martin.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Yes.
Come on up, and just to let you know, I know you were concerned last time. There is a 10-minute slot here for you, up to 10 minutes. So please take your time, and we'd love to hear from you.
Sir, if we don't use that for full 10 minutes, can we give some of that time up to one of the other?
At this point, no, it's just the applicant that can use up to that time.
Okay,
But brevity is always appreciated in all of our meetings.
thank you.
All right, so good evening. Gary and I would like to reiterate a few facts, which Craig has already said, but and that were addressed at the February meeting. This strip of land that we're asking to be vacated has never been maintained nor used as an alley by the city. We also want to clarify that our property is not adjacent to the alley easement. The easement is our property, as we own the entire lot and are taxed accordingly. The square footage of our lot is 14,788 feet, and taxes are collected on 0.34 acres, which is equivalent to 14,810 square feet. Also, the lots in our neighborhood are not unique to the city of Great Falls. For example, just as the homeowners in Riverview and Fox Farm access their backyards from the street, the property owners on both 24th and 25th Street Southwest also have access from the street side into their backyards. We submitted photos of our property for you, the commissioners, to see the layout of our lot and to hopefully give an idea of what we're dealing with. I hope that you were able to see those.
We were.
Okay. So in photo number 1, because I have some notes underneath all of those, in addition to what is written on this particular photo, I would like to add that in order for the flatbed trailers and enclosed trailers that are repeatedly backed into the property behind us, the driver will go forward and backward multiple times up the slope to our shop doors in order to maneuver the truck and trailers into that lot. And in addition, they'll drive around the blue and white shed that belongs to Vicky, our next door neighbor. The rest of the photos I think are pretty self-explanatory. Except for photos 8, 9, and 10. Those were actually taken last week on Thursday, March 11th. These tracks were not there the day before and are a prime example of how vehicles travel well beyond the 20-foot easement boundaries. The tracks are clearly seen to cross over into Vicky's property as well as right up to our trailer. So for the specific reasons that we want this vacation, number 1, over the years, the city has given permission for other homeowners on 24th Street Southwest to construct fencing or gates. With this alley being vacated, we would finally be afforded the same right. Number 2, no longer would we have the burden of making costly repairs due to damages caused by others. 3, finally, there will be an end to the parked or abandoned vehicles that have lined our property and also a stop to the frequent traffic, which a good portion of this traffic occurs after dark and into the early morning hours. And 4, in the future, if we choose to do so, we will have a marketable piece of property to sell.
And then I just want to reiterate what Nancy said. You know, when we purchased this property back in, I think it was 2003 or 2004, I would just like to ask the commission, please put yourself in our shoes. Nancy and I purchased that building lot when we were still on active duty in the Air Force with plans of building a dream home, which we did. Imagine living there for over 14 years, maintaining and paying taxes on the easement that is included in your deed. Then you start having plenty of traffic in and out for months on that property. So you ask the city for permission to put up a fence or a gate. Then you are told that you can't because it is an alleyway and it is for public access, even though we're paying taxes on it. How would that make you feel? Anyhow, that is why, that is what led us here to this point, asking for these vacation proceedings. I don't believe any of us from the 2nd Avenue Southwest to Central Avenue West on the 24th Street side are asking for anything extra than what we already maintain and pay taxes on. So I ask that you please vacate this alley and allow all the folks that are already paying for and maintaining this small strip of land to continue down that path. Additionally, if you guys, I think you guys probably have the agenda packet in front of you. On slide 104 is a map. And if you look at the bottom of that map, and it's on 2nd Avenue Southwest, it'll point to where our pins are, our pin locations for our steel pins for our property. And if you look at that on the left-hand side, you'll see that that pin is on the back side of the alley. And that's the property that we own, and that's the property that we've maintained. And I appreciate you guys listening to our side of the story, and I appreciate you guys having us there tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Ms. Martin, for my colleagues, I just want to reference the photos were actually delivered to us on last Friday in an email from Lisa, and it has those 3 photos in it, so we were able to reference those as well. Thank you. So at this point, what I'd like to do is ask the commissioners, not for any comments specifically, but any questions regarding what's going on here, clarity on any of the points that either Craig has made or the Martins have made before we proceed to public comment, or actually the public hearing. So any questions regarding kind of the data or the layout or the facts of the situation? Commissioner Tryon.
I'm just wondering, looking here at the map, location map, is the only access to this right-of-way, quote, end of quote, alley off of 2nd Avenue Southwest?
Yes, sir. Currently it is right now. And you can only access up, there's 3 properties that you can access to. And when you get to the 4th property heading towards Central Avenue West, everybody down there, quite a few people that I know of have gotten permission from the city to put up gates or any of that. And that's all we're asking for. Could we put up a gate or could we stop this? So yes, sir.
And then the other question is, do all of the folks on the 24th Street Southwest side, all of the lots, it's hard to tell from the picture, but just, does everybody have an access to their backyard from 24th Street Southwest on that east side?
Yes, sir. They all do.
Every single homeowner on 24th Street has provided their own access. They've got strips of property that run alongside that will take them all the way back to their backyards. So they don't have to go across anyone else's. In fact, even on 25th Street, I would say every single homeowner on that side, except for 2, have also provided their own access to their backyards.
That was the other question I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Those 2 also can have access if they move some stuff out of the way. There's access to the backyard from the 25th Street side if they move some things out of the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other, Commissioner Moe?
I think this question is probably for Craig. I'm looking at the agenda item itself, and on page 80 of the agenda, it makes a reference before the paragraph about utilities to 1 particular or 2 particular lots that have been removed from this request. And it says that this portion was pulled out of the request for vacation. This adjustment was conveyed to and supported by the applicants. Is that a recent development, or can you explain the history there to me a little more?
I don't have the full history, but this was not recent between the resolution of intent and this meeting. It was prior to that.
Okay, thank you. And then I have a question that is about the legal documents that we were provided. Is that appropriate now, or should I wait?
I'll refer that to Sarah. You have to
Those
unmute.
would be appropriate at this time. It's time for question and answer by the commission.
Commissioner Moe?
Okay, I do have one question for Sarah then. I note in your analysis or the analysis of your division that the key phrase seems to be if the commission deems it is necessary. And while I think that people have talked to the popularity of it and the desirability of it and the sort of fairness of it, how do we as a commission weigh the necessity of it?
And that was information that was provided in, to some extent, in terms of the considerations that have to be made, was provided in the analysis and the conclusion portion of it. I put in items 1 through 4 with regard to the evaluation that the City Commission could make. Additionally, I noted that the Commission can utilize any information that is provided by means of the public hearing process. necessary is obviously defined in the documents that I provided. And I also indicated that there were only a couple of Montana Supreme Court cases that deal with it. The necessity is a political decision to be made by the City Commission.
Thank you.
Any of my other colleagues regarding questions for the applicants or for Craig?
Your Honor,
Commissioner Tran?
just a question, since Sarah is, I guess, are you familiar with any third-party beneficiary prescriptive easement issue that the people that object to the petition might have, and sort of just generally if there's any legal jeopardy here for any kind of future litigation by either side of the issue, and specifically those opposed, who might be able to use a prescriptive easement argument?
And thank you, Commissioner. And obviously that was something that has been raised by counsel for one of the folks objecting. I highlighted to you, I'll back up. Obviously, folks can sue or be sued for various reasons, and it just is a matter of looking at the totality of the circumstances that we have to deal with. In this specific instance, the easement itself that is at issue talks about potential abandonment and the process for abandoning it for highway purposes by official action provided by the statute. And that if it's abandoned, then all property rights would immediately revert to the first party, or the party on whom the easement is attaches. So obviously, again, the commission can never be guaranteed that it won't be sued, but in providing the information that I did in the opinion that we provided you, it shows the bases for it, both factually with regard to the specific language of the easement at issue and Supreme Court case law, in terms of having grounds to consider this, and then reasons to consider as to whether or not reasonable access is maintained by all who object.
Okay. Sarah, thank you. Again, final call for questions or concerns for the applicant or Craig. Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Martin. Thank you, Craig. At this point, we will call for proponents and then opponents, and at which point, after the two sides are heard, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to the public comment. So would behoove you to pay attention to both sides of this discussion as we go forward. And Sarah, I'm going to beg your indulgence here. The timeline, how much time do each of the proponents or opponents have? Is it 3 minutes or 5 minutes? It's 5 minutes. Okay. 5 to you too. High five. And so I'm going to ask for proponents. As you heard me state earlier, we appreciate brevity, but you do have up to 5 minutes to speak your piece. If you find that there's someone before you has said something similar to your approach, please feel free to say me too. So I'd like to call then for anyone who wants to speak in favor of Mr. and Mrs. Martin's motion here or idea to vacate the property. Anyone who wants to speak in favor of? In the Gibson group at this point.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, well, don't be shy.
Oh, I'm never shy.
Your shorts look weather appropriate tonight. I just want to tell you.
I'm thinking, and I have the house next to Gary and Nancy Martin.
Can you tell us your name, please?
Vicki LaRosse.
Okay, great. And you're a resident of Great Falls?
Yes, I live right next to Gary and Nancy Martin.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, and Nancy gave you guys some pictures that shows access to my property. Well, in the last couple of days, they've used the side of my house to come down to get to the back alley where the easement sits back there. And then I have a couple of pictures. I don't know if I can show them or not. But I want to explain to you why I have an issue with the alleyway in the back. So if you can just give me a second, it'll take me a minute.
This will be rather difficult for us all to see unless you walk it right up to the camera. So I'm going to ask Craig to assist you with this process here. This would be the equivalent of laying down some information on the table in the commission chamber. So carry on. We don't have time to do a screen share here, unfortunately, but feel free to describe it. We're very good at imagining things.
One reason why I want to vacate the alleyway access.
Okay, I'll show it to them.
You might hit the video. Is it playing? Okay. Now that is them coming around my shed in my backyard. When they use this alleyway access to unload trailers and cars, they come around my blue shed, around my property, and go out behind Gary and Nancy. Plus, I have a driveway that comes down the side of my house that they use to go to the back alleyway too. So that's why I'm against this. I mean, they've tore up my whole backyard. I paid $2,000 worth of gravel to be brought in on my property because they just keep digging holes and holes and holes. They have no respect, none. So that's my complaint.
To be clear, you're actually supporting the idea, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Totally. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the Gibson room who is a proponent?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm Alan Graff. I live at 24th Street Southwest. I am for being evacuated. In 2014, I have a letter from a city official stating I can fence off that property as long as I leave access to the utilities or give them the right of way. I'd like to present this letter to the city so that you know that I already have permission to fence off my property. Thank you.
Please leave that with Mr. Raymond if you would. Thank you for that. Is there anyone else who wants to walk all the way from the back wall there to speak as a proponent?
I'm Becky Benbow, my husband Andy Benbow. The vehicle that you saw going around that shed, it goes into our yard to go around her shed through her yard, and they disrupt a lot of the ground around that area. A lot of them have pulled through and been stuck because they think it is an alley with the opening off of what street is that? Fourth. They think it's an alley. They pull in there in the middle of the night drunk, get stuck in the snow or mud, and my husband has to go out there and help dig them out.
On top of that, the way this property sits and what was there before, there were drainage ditches all through there. When these properties were all built on, they filled those drainage ditches in. In lieu of that, all the water, because of how low the property is, drains back onto that particular 20 feet and about 20 feet of my property. I have chose to not do anything until I find the outcome of this here.
Sure.
Because of that, I usually have in the summertime for about 3 months, roughly about anywhere from a foot to 2 foot of water sitting back there, that if you drive into that, you literally sink to the windows. I have been out there multiple times, usually at night around bark time, pulling people out. And as she said, when they come out of there, they tend to go into mine because that's the drier part of it. And around Vicky, around their shed, onto her property, and they have tore this up so many times, I can't even tell you how much money I put into it. On top of the fact that we've all of our pins in that area are back into there. So it is another deal with the pin issue.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who wants to speak as a proponent? Greg, can you let me know if there are people getting up or walking forward?
It looks like we've concluded all remarks in the Gibson room, Your Honor.
All right, then Lisa, is there anyone on the telephone who indicates they want to speak as a proponent of this?
Your Honor.
Yeah, so if you're listening, please do *9 or rather to unmute yourself, it's *6, if you would, please.
Roxanne Satara.
Ms. Satara, if you can hear me, this is for proponents. This is not for opponents. So if you want to speak in favor of vacating the alley, this is your time. If you want to speak in opposition to it, you need to wait just a minute, if you would, please.
One other caller on the line.
All right, let's go to that person if we could, Lisa.
Caller ending in 2376. You can unmute yourself by *9.
*6, I think it is actually, isn't it?
There he goes.
Hi there, phone caller. Are you a proponent of this process here or an opponent? I'm sorry, we can't hear you at this point. So if you're calling from 761-2376, we are unable to hear you. We recommend that you hit *6 to unmute your phone, and we may be able to hear you at that point. All right. You are.
Your Honor,
Yeah.
it looks like they muted themselves by hitting *6. They need to hit *6 again.
You need to hit *6 again to unmute, just once.
There you go.
Okay. We should be able to hear you now.
I am the one that's waiting to do, I'm not for closing the alley.
Okay,
So I've
very
tried
good.
to get out of this, so I don't know what to do here.
You stay right there. Don't leave us, okay? Your voice is important, but we'll be right to you as soon as we can, but don't go anywhere. Okay.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome. So at this point, there are no more proponents on the telephone or in the Gibson room. We will then ask for opponents. And as it seems, I have a clairvoyant way of telling that this phone caller is an opponent to this action. And ma'am, would you be kind enough to give us your name and whether you're a Great Falls resident or not?
My name's Roxanne Satara, and I have been a resident of Great Falls since 1989. I've lived on this property since 2001.
Okay, we'll carry on. Please feel free to speak your piece.
I am not for closing the alley. I need that access to access my backyard. The movie they just showed you is, I can't even imagine how old that is. I have not had kids living here since 2017. And the one person that drove through the girl's driveway was a kid on a Harley, and he's never been here again since. The guy that is complaining that my kids are back there driving around is, I talked to my son last weekend. He's in Billings, been there since 2017. And he said he did one time get stuck back there, and that guy did have to help him get out of there. So he admitted to that. I mean, if there was more times, he would have told me. He's just not that way to tell me any different. But anyways, we have not accessed that alley. since October, the beginning of October, when all of this got started. So the things that Gary and Nancy just showed you must have come from the trailer and the truck that he had backed in there here just this last week. So we have not been back there. We've not even opened the gates back there since the beginning of October. So that is an untruth, that it was our deal there. It is sure is not. I put gravel back there. My mother's had that all filled in when she lived here. And of course, through time, gravel sinks into Mother Earth. It just does. So it's a reoccurring deal. Yeah, we do flood now that house is built up and all the ditches are filled in. We're all flooding. So I did haul in gravel last summer to have the cops called on me several times, 3 times to be exact, for trespassing. So I have not done anything more since. I cannot do. This has to get settled. We bought the property. When my parents bought this property in 78, there was the easements with it, and they have always been there. These guys must have bought their property under an idea of someone else's. They should have maybe researched their deal. As far as we've even offered to put in asphalt back there, and Gary did not want to even answer to that. Danny, the time that dents were put out there, Danny, the next door neighbor girl, she was out there raking them up for Bubba. So that there isn't all of this occurrence that these guys are talking about. And if it is, it must be people that Bubba had said at the last meeting, she allows people to go back there. I mean, I've never seen it, but she said she does. If they ask, she'll let them go back there. I'm just against all of this. I feel that that we were here first on this side. Steve and I, neither one can access. I don't care what we move. We could not access our backyards. That's lot 2D and 2A. The rest of them probably can by how their lots are, but we cannot. Steve nor I can do that. So, the only access we have to get back there to deal with those cotton and ash trees and anything else we may want to do as far as landscaping or dealing with our backyard, we will not be able to do if Gary and Nancy get this vacated. They also plan to move. They've said they're going to move in a couple of years. So they, this is going to, like Nancy told you, about how this is going to fix their property. Well, they should have known what they were buying when they bought it. I just don't feel that Steve and I should have to suffer or have any kind of liabilities that we won't even be able to deal with if we can't access our backyards.
Ms. Satara, you have a few seconds if you want to wrap up.
Okay, so I'm against all of this. If they want to vacate, they can vacate from Steve's house further on up, but they need to leave it open up to 2AA. That's where Mike lives. And if I think he's the one that just gave you that letter that he has an easement. He's to his backyard.
Okay,
So,
Ms. Satara, the time is up. We appreciate your comments.
okay, thank you very much. And I did send you guys pictures today of the gravel that Gary complains about.
Yes, ma'am. We have.
Piled up in the easement.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. You
You're
can
welcome.
mute your phone if you would. There you go. Thank you. That would be *6 to mute your phone. Is there anyone else who wants to speak in opposition to this? Anyone in the Gibson room there who wants to speak in opposition?
Your Honor.
Okay. And then Lisa, is there anyone else on the telephone?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Levine?
Okay, Mr. Levine? Star 6 to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Okay. All right. So I am an attorney. I represent Ms. Satara, whom you just heard from. And the most important thing that the commission needs to understand is about the physical layout of these properties. Nancy Martin acknowledged this in her comments. There are 2 lots and only 2 lots in this whole block that do not have access to their backyards because of the way they've been subdivided and developed. And that is the fault line that the commission is seeing in the comments. The 2 lots that do not have access to their backyards are Miss Satara and Mr. Shaineman, lots 2A and 2D. The addresses are 121 and 123 of 25th Street Southwest. And so what the commission is faced with is a number of lot owners on the 24th Street Southwest side who do not like the fact that they bought property that is subject to an easement that has been in place for almost 70 years. And they don't like that their property that they bought subject to an easement has an easement. They are trying to take away their neighbors' access. And these are neighbors who do not have other access to their backyards. And so what the 24th Street neighbors are trying to do is very unfair to Ms. Satara and Mr. Shaineman. And I urge the commission to simply acknowledge that this is not necessary. This is a long-standing easement. The easement was in place when they bought their properties and should remain in place. The proponents ask the commission to respect their property rights and to have the full use of their property, including the 20 feet that's subject to the easement. What they are asking the commission to do, however, is to take away property rights from the neighbors on the 25th Street side. This is the only access they have to their backyards, Ms. Satara and Mr. Shaineman, and taking away the public alley would also greatly diminish their property values by limiting how they can develop their property in the future. Beyond Mr. Shaineman, to the north of him, everyone to the north there does have other access to their backyard. And so if the commission wants to vacate a portion of the alley to the north of Mr. Shaineman, I suppose that would be fine. But the southernmost portion of this alley needs to remain in place because Ms. Satara and Mr. Shaineman need it to remain in place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Levine. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else who wants to speak in opposition? Lisa, anyone else on the phone?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, then I will then close the public. I won't close the public hearing yet. There is an opportunity for the applicant, Mr. and Mrs. Martin, to respond to the public comment if you would like. You have up to 5 minutes to do that. So carry on.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Attorney Levin just said that we said that there was no access on 2 lots. He's right for vehicles. But if you look at Fox Farm, you look at Riverview, they don't have access back there either for vehicles. There's no need for them to have vehicles in and out of the back of that. They can get to the back of their property
Through gate
on the front if they move some of their things that they have in the way. Another thing is an easement. What is an easement? An easement is for utilities and emergency vehicles only. Yes, we did do our homework when we bought that property. Yes, we did know there was an easement on there for emergencies and urgent vehicles only. It wasn't an alleyway. We did not find out it was an alleyway until we wanted to put a fence up there starting last summer. And that's when, last summer, May 15th, to be exact, is when a lot of this activity started happening in and out of there. And Ms. Satara just said on there, they haven't been out there since October. I just saw Dave, who happens to be a friend of theirs, pull out of there at 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning. I heard his truck is rather loud, woke me up in the middle of the night, I went and looked out the window to see who was out there, and Dave was out there. So none of that holds water. Anyways, we did do our homework. We know what we pay taxes on. We knew what we were getting into when we bought it. And the reason we bought it was because it had that easement. We could put a nice shop out back. We'd be able to get in and out of there, and it would be there for emergencies and urgent vehicles only. It was not for public use, and it still shouldn't be for public use.
And that's the problem with it being labeled as an alley, because it's never been utilized as an alley. I hope that everyone listening understands. It's never been maintained, graded. Nothing has been
Snow removal, no garbage, no nothing. It's
nothing.
never been, since 1952, that has never been used as an alleyway the way that it probably was intended in 52.
Or
in 54, it was annexed into the city. It still hadn't been. That place has been vacated since the beginning of when it was given to us by the county. And so when we bought that property, like I said, that's the reason we bought it.
And yes, there has been huge difficulty selling our property because of what is going on in the backyard. I want to make that clear that, yes, we've had great difficulties because of what happens on this property because it's considered public access. There is absolutely no control over who comes through our property. And even, like I said, the pictures between Vicky's house and our house, they will travel between the two, drive across our lawn, breaking the sprinkler heads, besides all the traffic that goes through the gravel area. So yes, Roxy and Steve both can access their backyards through a gate.
From the front.
From the front.
From 25th.
They could even take a wheelbarrow if they needed to. She talks about needing to have her wood delivered into her backyard. It can be delivered from the front to the back. They don't need to drive to their backyard. And if somebody needed to have utility work done, which has happened, Steve has asked us and he's asked Vicky for permission to have utility companies come in and he had to have some kind of work done in his backyard. We were more than happy to grant them access into that area. And they were very gracious about cleaning up. There was a very heavy vehicle back there that did some damage and it was repaired, not at our expense, because Steve asked. Roxy has never asked.
Yeah, nope, never been asked. Anybody that asks if they need to get in and out of there, we've granted them access. We're just getting sick and tired of all the shenanigans that are going on back there all the time, all the time. The last instance was Sunday night. So.
All right.
It's just that that piece of property goes back to the people that are maintaining it and the people that are paying taxes on it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. and Ms. Martin. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
At this point, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion from one of my colleagues.
Your Honor.
Mr.
Maybe I
Howe.
can find it.
Yes, Commissioner Howe.
Sorry, my computer turned off while we were talking or listening. So I move. No, I lost it. So maybe if somebody else has it readily available.
Your Honor, I'd
Mr.
be happy
Robinson.
to make a motion.
Mr. Robinson.
I move that the city commission adopt am I in the right one? Yes, adopt resolution 10386 to vacate the alley easement as legally described in the staff report.
I will second.
You have a second. Okay. Anyone want to jump in with a discussion here?
I have a couple of questions
Okay.
that came up, and probably the two that rise to the top for me is that I was curious to know what city official signed off on that letter in 2014, just out of curiosity, which department that was put at the podium. And then my second question maybe is for Ms. Sexy is, what would be the legal thought if something happened on that property, there was an accident, who would be liable?
Who causes the accident?
Well, if somebody comes onto my property.
That was I would like to answer that,
Oh,
obviously. The liability, I think the question was directed to me. The liability obviously would be for whoever's responsible for the accident or the injuries that occurred. However, there is the potential, if there is an alleyway, that the city might be included in that as well.
So just a second follow-up on that, Sarah, is that if somebody were to come to my property and they trip and fall on a broken sidewalk or an exposed route, I am the landowner and I am liable for that.
Well, potentially, if
Yeah.
there's some, obviously an actionable claim in that regard.
Okay.
And then, Craig, do you
Your
want to?
first question.
Yeah.
Is Jim Reardon, Public Works Director, signed the letter in 2014?
It was Public Works. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners? I think that the cases, there is a majority of folks who want to see this happen. And I do appreciate the perspective of the opponent and also the proponent. I'm in favor of granting this just for commonality and access for the neighbors to appreciate their full yard and their full tax paying. They've been paying taxes on this for a while. They should be able to use it. And again, the fact is that there are many homes in this community that don't have vehicle access to their backyard, but do have access from the front. So, Mary Mo, Commissioner Mo.
I do have a question for Attorney Levine.
I don't know if that's appropriate, but okay, we'll allow that then. Mary, go ahead.
It's the same question that I asked the city attorney. In looking at the documents, there seems to be a need to, the key criterion seems to show that it is, or seems to be that it is necessary, that is the key consideration for the commission. Could you give me your perspective on that?
Thank you, Commissioner Mo. I do agree with Ms. Sexy that there is not a clear guidance from the Montana Supreme Court on what exactly necessary means. So it is a discretionary call for the commission. However, I would say that there is no reason why this needs to be vacated. The proponents want it to be vacated. And I would argue that it doesn't rise to the level of necessity for the city.
Thank you, Counselor. Commissioner Mo, any follow-up?
No, just the comment that I think that the petitioners have shown that over the course of a long period of time, there seems to be no other solution to preserve their to prevent there being a continuing nuisance, a hazard, a liability, and an intrusion on their property rights. So I am in favor of the motion.
Okay. Before I call for a vote, Commissioner Tryon, yep.
Yeah, it just seems to me that Commissioner Mo was asking about the necessity. This seems like a pretty simple property rights issue to me, and I would consider the necessary to be in favor of this, to make sure that the people that are requesting the vacation of this, it's necessary for them to have their property rights, the property they've been paying taxes on and maintaining for all of this time. And as I look at the motion and the documentation and the picture here, it seems to me this was never intended to be a public alley. This was just, I live in a place where there is an alley, and that alley is meant for public use. It seems to me this was never meant for that. And so since there's no public necessity to, for the public to drive through and access from one street to another, it seems to me that this is a pretty simple, straightforward property rights issue.
Okay. If there are no other comments, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, raise your hand and say nay. All right, that passes. Thank you very much to the proponents and the opponents and the petitioners. We will move on to agenda item 15, which is resolution 10387, conditional use permit for a worship facility land use upon property addressed as 511 Central Avenue and legally described as lot 12 to 13, block 316, Great Falls Original Edition, section 12, township 20N, range 3E, PMM, Cascade County, Montana, also presented by Craig Raymond. Craig?
Thank you very much, Your Honor, and the neighbors of the previous agenda item are very appreciative of your actions. So on this item, if adopted, resolution 10387 would grant a conditional use permit to allow for a worship facility land use upon the property addressed as 511 Central Avenue. The subject property is zoned C4 Central Business Core, wherein a worship facility land use is permitted upon receiving a conditional use permit and adhering to any required conditions that may be applied. The subject property contains several other suites as well. It's a multi-tenant commercial building, and the applicant has been using the suite as a meeting space for Potter's House since February of 2020. In March of 2020, the city received a safety inspection certificate request for the applicant to use the subject property as the worship facility. The applicant and owner were unaware that the worship facility land use was permitted only through the CUP in that zoning district. Additionally, the applicant had already signed a lease with the owner prior to filing the SIC request. To allow the applicant some time to consider his options, which is something we routinely do in situations such as this, the SIC was issued with a condition that the Potter's House was allowed to occupy the space until September 1st, 2020, at which time the applicant would either need to relocate or apply for the CUP. Although the applicant did submit the application later than September 1st, they eventually complied with the CUP process requirement. And that's why we're here this evening, is to consider that. The applicant believes the location best fits the mission of the church and has opted to apply for the required CUP to allow a longer term stay in their downtown location. The only other thing I might remind the commission about, only because it hasn't been too long since we had an issue similar to this come up in the past, is the city commission did recently vote to amend regulations related to location of worship facilities in proximity to liquor serving establishments. Until that code amendment, liquor serving establishments could not be located within 600 feet of worship facilities. And under that scenario, there had been quite a bit of consternation related to new worship facilities in the downtown core. Given the action that the city commission took not long ago, that's no longer a concern, and the two uses can live harmoniously closer than 600 feet. With that, staff requests that the city commission conduct a public hearing and adopt resolution 10387. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. I love any presentation that has the word harmoniously in there. Thank you for that. Is the petitioner, is the applicant here, and would he or she like to make a presentation?
Not here, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Is there any questions for Mr. Raymond regarding any information or details that you'd like to hear before we go to public comment?
Your Honor.
Mr. Robinson, a question?
I have one question. I don't know. It talks about the Potter House was allowed to occupy the space until September 1st, 2020. Have they been occupying it after that, or they just didn't get, we just couldn't get to it, so they've still are occupying it, or was that a typo?
They still are occupying it. They did come in a couple of months late, but they still are occupying it. And you know, it does take us a little while once they make application to actually make it to this step here this evening. So it's not that they very recently filed the application, but it was definitely after the September 1st.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Moe?
Thank you, Your Honor. Craig, my question has to do with transportation. In that section, you say that because the church's highest number of vehicle trips would be on a Sunday, traffic would be little affected in terms of the other typical uses of that street. Are there plans or has any measure been taken of traffic patterns or their use of the facility on weekdays or times when there is more occupancy on Central Avenue and the adjoining streets?
Thank you, Commissioner. That's a good question. It doesn't sound to staff that they tend to use and occupy the space much during the week when there's more significant traffic. My understanding is there's a group of approximately 25 people that use the space, and it doesn't sound like it's a very large space, so probably couldn't grow much larger than that.
Thank you. A follow-up question either for you or for Ms. Sexy. I note that in the resolution under number 1, that if after the establishment of the conditional use, the owner proposes to expand or modify the use, they would again have to consult with you. Would an expansion of the use of the property of the type that I've just described trigger that?
Maybe you could let me know what you mean by expansion. Do you mean by number of people or by?
By setting up perhaps a Saturday school that would involve that same number of traffic, but only at a time that would conflict with the other uses of that street.
I think if it were a similar number and a similar impact, we would not consider that to be a substantial change.
However, the substantial change, I think, Commissioner, would be if they greatly expanded the footprint or the population that was being served on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Any other questions to Craig or anyone regarding this information on this project? Okay, then I will call for the public hearing. At this point, I want to ask those who want to speak in favor of this resolution 10387 to come forward. Is there anyone in the commission, in the Gibson room, who wants to come forward?
There's not, Your Honor.
As a proponent. Okay, Lisa, is there anyone on the phone who wishes to speak as a proponent?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr.
Okay.
Doney.
Brett, unmute yourself. There you go, partner. Go ahead.
Good evening, Brett Doney with the Great Falls Development Authority, city resident. We speak in favor of this and want to thank city staff and the commission again for passing the earlier ordinance that allows these types of mixed uses. In terms of crowding the downtown, really what we need is more people downtown. So we would not be opposed to the church holding many activities downtown. We have plenty of parking available. People might need to walk a block or two, but they'll walk a lot further at their local grocery store. So this is a win-win for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doney. Anyone else on the telephone, Lisa, who wants to speak as a proponent?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, Sarah, I believe that's 3 times, is it not? Okay, very good. Then at this point, I'd like to call forward anyone who wants to speak in opposition to the resolution. Craig, is there anyone in the Gibson room who wants to rise in opposition to this?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. And then Lisa, is there anyone on telephone who would be an opponent?
No, Your Honor.
No indication of any opponents either in the Gibson room or on the phone still, correct? All right, very good. Then I will close the public hearing and look for a motion from my colleagues.
Your Honor.
Commissioner.
I move that the City Commission adopt Resolution 10387, subject to the findings of fact and basis of decision, and the applicant fulfilling the listed conditions of approval.
I second the motion.
I have a second from Commissioner Tryon. Thank you very much. Any discussion up here regarding the CUP passage? Okay, I don't see anyone hands raised, so then I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against, say nay. All right, that passes. Thank you very much. We will go on to item number 16, I apologize, agenda item 16, and this is to set a public hearing on a land exchange agreement between the City of Great Falls and Independence Bank. And this is presented again by Craig, who's getting all his steps in tonight. Go ahead, Craig.
That's right, but I can use it because I got the COVID-19 pounds put on me, so. In any case, for years, there have been visions of providing the enhanced trail connections on each side of the river through the restoration of the 10th Street Bridge. The project has taken several years to bring it to this point, and we find ourselves in a position to secure land on the south side of the river, which could be used as a connecting point to our renowned River's Edge Trail system. Independence Bank has purchased a tract of land along the Missouri River, located in between the 9th Street Bridge and the 10th Street Bridge. This tract of land is located to the west of the Old Falls construction site on the Missouri River Diner. The city was recently approached by the bank to engage in a land swap for unusable land along the Missouri River for a piece of vacant land that the city owns along River Drive. The intent of the land swap is for the land along the river to be acquired by the city to facilitate the future trail extension to the bridge and beyond. And also for the bank to gain additional land that they need for parking and other things related to a future development that they would like to take place in. As you can see in your staff report, the property that the city would convey to the bank will not include property immediately off of River Drive. We have felt that we needed to preserve additional land at this critical intersection due to the increased traffic loads and decreasing level of service of the intersection over time. Without knowing what specific improvements may be contemplated, staff feels that this is critical land to preserve for possible transportation improvements, if any are needed. There have been a lot of moving parts to this project. It's very complex and has demanded a significant amount of staff time to ensure that the public interest is served. In order to be transparent, we are also aware that the bank has requested additional changes to the agreement that's in front of you in order to accommodate their desire to do a 1031 exchange with this property. The requested change was subsequent to the deadline for staff to submit the agenda report for tonight's meeting, but it will be amended for the commission prior to the public hearing meeting and also available to the public before that also. At this point, staff supports the proposed subdivision and land swap with the bank. Therefore, staff requests that the city commission set a public hearing for the land swap for April 6th, 2021.
Great. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Honor.
Robinson? Owen, you need to unmute, please.
I can't believe that. Every time I put my finger down on the space bar, it unmutes, and then when I go to make a motion, it doesn't for some reason. And of course, now I've lost my place.
Your Honor.
Commissioner Mo?
Yeah, thank you.
I move that the City Commission set a public hearing for April 6, 2021 on the exchange agreement of city-owned property, which is anticipated to be subdivided from a larger parcel and will be described as Lot 1 of the 10th Street Bridge minor subdivision in exchange for Independence Bank-owned property, which is anticipated to be subdivided from a larger parcel and will be described as Lot 2 of the Independence Bank minor subdivision.
Okay, do we have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Robinson. We heard you. Is there any public comment regarding this? In the Gibson room, is there anyone who wants to come forward, Craig?
No, Your Honor, there is not.
Okay, and then Lisa, is there anyone on the phone who wants to public comment, please?
There is, Your Honor, Mr. Doney.
Mr. Doney, carry on.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, excellent. Brett Doney again with the Great Falls Development Authority, city resident. I just want to thank not only city staff, but the River's Edge Trail, DEQ, EPA, and my GFDA staff as well, of course, the bank and the property owners. We've been working on this site for a number of years through our brownfield program, trying to move it towards redevelopment. It's a very special site right on the river. And as Craig mentioned, I know it has taken a lot of time, but I think this is just another example that if we all sit down and start working things through, we can solve intractable problems. And this is another one on its way to being solved. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate it. Any other public comment? No one in the Gibson room. Lisa, anyone on the phones?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Then I'll open it up for discussion with the commissioner. Again, this is just to set the public hearing for April 6th. Any comments? Commissioner Tryon.
I'm just wondering here as I'm reading this, am I wrong? I thought we had to vacate city property before you did a swap. Is that not right?
Greg or Sarah?
No, there's, we've been following the ordinance with regard to the consideration of this. There's no requirement for vacation of the property. Because it's parkland, it would have to be.
Parkland, okay.
Yeah. But it's not dedicated as parkland, however,
Okay.
It's just maintained by the Park and Rec. Correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, in that regard.
Correct, yeah. If it is actually dedicated as parkland, then proceeds would have to go to the Park Foundation under certain circumstances. Because it was not, that is not necessarily the case. And we're really not receiving any significant monetary value. There'll be probably a minor exchange of funds, just depending on the exact amounts in the appraisal. But as such, it doesn't necessarily have to be considered dedicated parkland.
And that's the other question I had very, very quickly here is that how do you determine, it says under fiscal impact that each parcel there has been valued at approximately $65,000. How do you reach that? You haven't had it appraised yet. How do you determine that amount?
They are being appraised. In fact, I think they have been. We're just, I think we're waiting for the final reports.
But prior to that, how did you come to the $65,000 question?
We did not. It was through the appraisals that we arrived at that figure.
Yeah, and you'll provide those in documentation before the public hearing?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments to staff?
Your Honor. Oh, not a question of staff. I just wanted to make a comment that this is one of those kinds of things that is a win-win for everybody. And I really want to thank Craig and the planning and community development for being so open to this. It opens up our River's Edge Trail to the end of the bridge, and now we can use that bridge that has been worked on for so many years and is almost done. It will be done. Can now walk across it and be on city property and River's Edge Trail land and be able to walk from there. It's one of these things that, man, I can tell you the community is really behind. I also want to thank the GFDA for carrying the water on this one. They did that very, very well for a long time.
Well, and we'll be voting on this after the public hearing on April 6th. So we'll look forward to that. Those
Yeah,
comments.
I know. I know that wasn't probably proper, but I'm very excited about this one.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Any other comments before we vote to set the public hearing? All righty. All those in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we'll be talking about that April 6th. We'll look forward to the appraisals as well. Craig, thanks very much. Stay right there. This takes us to agenda item 17. Also, this is the some notice of the Civic Center facade OF 1525.2 presented by Craig, Director of Planning and Community Development. Go ahead, Craig.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. And this is probably my favorite agenda item tonight. As you know, city staff has been working on planning a facade renovation of the Civic Center in earnest since at least 2011. And honestly, probably even a little before that. The City Commission has also made significant investments in this project to this point. through awarding design and construction drawing contracts, engineering studies and the like, putting the project out for competitive bid, which we recently did. The city conducted the bid opening on March 3rd, and we were really pleased to have received 6 qualified bids ranging in price from $7.9 million to $5.4 million, rough numbers. To be honest, my heart sank when I started hearing the numbers in the $7 to $8 million range, as our anticipated budget and what we'd accounted for was closer to the $5.5 million with our specific TIF requests and bonding. Thankfully, we've received a good bid that we can follow up on. Normally, at this point, I would have said, let's put the pedal to the metal and let's just go for it. Automatically suggest awarding the bid, but in this case, we're recommending that we postpone award of the bid just so we can do some additional due diligence in interviewing the apparent low bidder and also checking references and things of that nature. There's nothing at this point to indicate any items of concern for us. So I'm still thrilled, and I can't believe I'm recommending that we postpone to April 6th. But that is where we're at right now, is that we postpone award of the contract to Talisman Construction Services, Inc. until April 6th, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Craig. I need a motion, please, from one of my colleagues.
Your Honor,
Commissioner.
I move that the city commission postpone the construction contract in the amount of $5,411,682 to Talisman Construction Services, Inc. for the Civic Center facade, and authorize the city manager to not execute the construction contract documents.
Very good. Do we have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any public comment in the Gibson room, Craig? Anyone there?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Lisa, is there anyone on the phone who wants to comment?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, if there is, they just need to hit *9 to raise their hand. Okay, so discussion amongst the commissioners. I would say, Craig, I was shocked when I read this this review piece here. I know you're anxious to move forward the project. We all are. One thing I think we all would like to hear from you is obviously the bid is considered good until the date that you've set to execute the contract itself. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Other comments or questions from my colleagues up here? Commissioner Robinson.
Your Honor, just shortly, I want you to know that I did write a letter to our city manager telling them that when we opened up our office in Spokane, that some of the work was done by Talisman, and they were very good. But I totally concur with this, that we need to do our due diligence based in the normal way. So I support this motion.
Okay, great. Other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right, Craig, we'll look forward to seeing you on that topic in April, okay?
You and me both.
Thanks. Stay right there. Do you want to take some more steps while I read this next one?
No.
Agenda item 18. This is change order number 1 on the finance office remodel, OF 1750-0. And this is, the action is to approve the change order 1. And Craig, tell us what this is, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. The city awarded a contract to Wadsworth Builders on November 17th, 2020 to remodel the finance office area of the Civic Center in order to optimize workspace and to provide additional work areas for the city's legal department. When construction commenced after the holidays, we ran into issues that are not unusual when you're embarking on remodel projects. While we certainly were aware that there's asbestos in the Civic Center from previous projects that we've worked on, we had hoped that we'd be able to leave it undisturbed in place. Well, that didn't exactly work out like we'd hoped. So we had to engage the appropriate testing and personnel in order to conduct the appropriate testing and monitoring of the abatement of the asbestos, as well as checking for any lead containing material as well. Beyond those two issues, we also ran into some unforeseen electrical issues that were not apparent prior to demolition. but were exposed, and those items have been addressed through this change order. And also this change order addresses design changes that were requested by the department and ADA compliance issues for the front counter that serves the public that were addressed after we had submitted for permit plan. So all of those items are joined together in this one change order request in the amount of $45,344.88. And staff requests that the City Commission approve this request.
Thank you. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Honor,
Mr.
I move that the City Commission approve change order number 1 in the amount of $45,344.88 and increase the total contract amount from $297,000 to $344,044.88 for the City Finance Office remodel.
Okay.
A second.
Have a second. Thank you, Commissioner Howe. Is there any public comment in the Gibson room? Craig, you want to look around? Anybody there wants to come forward?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and then Lisa, anyone on the telephone who wants to comment publicly on this change order?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. I'll open it up for commission discussion. I'd like to ask Craig a question. Part of this was because of asbestos treatment, et cetera. GFDA has done a great job with their brownfields money going forward. Has there been an opportunity for us to utilize those dollars either in this project or in others in the community?
We have not, and primarily because of the length of time that we would have to pause construction on the project in order to, apply for grants and loans, whichever it is, under these circumstances. So we just didn't feel like it was an optimal thing to take advantage of at this time.
So a follow-up to that, Craig, and this is an old building that you're dealing with, and obviously this stuff is to be expected as you go along and knock walls down and find electrical conduit hanging from strange places. That we're going to see the same thing with the facade and with the roof as well as we go dig deep into the history of this building. And I'm just wondering if there are some federal grant programs we ought to start looking at now that might help mitigate some of those asbestos-related or pollutant-related costs that we might incur.
We'll take a look at it, although to be honest, given the nature of the work that we're doing in the facade, it's unlikely that we're going to be getting into disturbing asbestos-containing materials or lead materials. One of the alternates for the new contract is, we'll get into that on the 6th, but it's a lead caming. It's like a joint treatment that helps weatherproofing. So, we're recommending that we do that in that situation, but that's not where it's, exposed to people and any kind of a hazard. So we'll give that some additional consideration, and I'll ask the architects and engineers what their thoughts are on that. But I doubt that the material that we're going to be getting into are going to be asbestos containing.
So my final question before I open up to the rest of my colleagues here, the second paragraph of your presentation, it says, during the building permit review, it was determined that the space should comply with ADA requirements. That seems a strange sentence. I would think that ADA requirements are at the front of all building contracts, especially in the public service sector. So, we talked about ADA improvements. Was none of this stuff kind of foreseen going forward, or it just seems like it was a miss? Tell me what happened there.
Well, yes and no. I mean, the area that we're going to be modifying to make more ADA accessible is that front counter that faces the public. Prior to the plan review, that was not going to be modified at all. So all of the work that we were going to be doing to that other space, it was compliant with all current ADA regulations. But the way the ADA regulations and the building code exist today is only new work that you're doing has to comply, or when you have a certain dollar amount, up to 20% of that has to go towards other elements of ADA improvements. So when the plan review was actually done, that is when that kind of triggered the thought of, okay, this is going to definitely kick in some additional changes and improvements, and the front counter was the no-brainer because virtually every other element of that space was ADA compliant except for the front counter.
And the door handles, apparently.
Correct. But we were already designing that into the project, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Others? Questions? Rick?
Yeah, Craig, right after that sentence that Mayor Kelly just referenced, it says, as a part of the change to the front counter, we took this opportunity to blend the hallway aesthetics together to provide for a more cohesive look in the hallway. And I've just got a couple of questions about that. Can you clarify, in addition to the asbestos abatement and the ADA compliance, this is part of a sort of a change in the look or the design of the remodel. Can you, just by way of clarification, tell me how much of the $45,000 is that? I had a hard time seeing what that was from the work orders here. Just can you give me a dollar amount on what portion is for the aesthetics to provide a more cohesive look in the hallway? And who was it that that decided that was a necessary part of the remodel, and why?
Yeah, Your Honor, Commissioners, that's a good question. It wasn't so much that aesthetics was the priority. Melissa, the department head, had requested that glass was removed from the doors and part of that area for safety considerations in an effort to make the area more secure. Some time ago, people had thought about installing bulletproof glass or something like that in different areas around the Civic Center, given public safety concerns in this day and age. That obviously had not happened, but in this case, since there was some remodeling already taking place, Melissa had asked that some of the glass there would be removed. And so that was some of the area that was filled in, drywalled and things of that nature, and kind of blended in with the rest of the hallway space. So it wasn't so much that aesthetics in and of itself was the priority with that change. It was really more of a safety concern from the department head. And then, in that we made it aesthetically kind of blend in with everything else. But as far as the exact dollar amount, I believe that was part of revised cost proposal number 6 is my understanding. And not all of it is the $6,482.97 because some of that's the ADA, but I believe that that's part of that cost proposal.
Well, if it was more of a safety issue, I think that probably should have been spelled out in the agenda report here, because the way it reads, it's just, it looks like, well, we got to do these ADA and abatements for asbestos and ADA compliance. So let's just, try to make, let's just redesign something in here because we don't like the way it looks or we want it to look better. I don't mind that so much, but you're saying it was more of a safety concern than an aesthetic?
That's correct.
And that's like another $6,482 for there. It's a change order, and I guess I'm a little uncomfortable with it. It just kind of looks like it's sort of unnecessary, and it's taxpayer money, and I just have a little concern that it's kind of thrown in there, and it's I don't know. I just have a concern about it. So.
Fair enough. Other comments or questions? Okay. All right. So having done that, I will call for the vote. All those who want to approve the change order, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, that'll pass 4-1. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it.
Now we'll go sit down.
Yes, you can sit down, as a matter of fact. Steve Herrig, are you there? This is item number 19, agenda item 19, and this is for the Park District, Oddfellows Park restroom improvements. This is to consider the bid and award the construction contract. Presented by Steve Herrig, our Park and Rec Director. Steve, good to see you. Go on.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Yes, this is, if you'll recall, we came to you last May for the purchase of the prefabricated restroom from CXT, which is Sourcewell, through Sourcewell. And so this is the laying the base for the restroom to come in. It is the demolition of the current restroom, which doesn't meet anywhere close to ADA standards. It also has a septic with drain fields on it, so we need to get that out of there. This project will set the base with all stub ups for utilities in preparation for the new restroom. There is quite a bit of sanitary sewer line that has to be laid because the closest sewer line we could tie into was probably close to a block away. And then it's all, water's fairly close. Electric has to be moved. We got a new pedestal for electric with Northwest Energy. And then we'll have actually 2 pedestal drops in this park because we'll keep a pedestal drop at the current location for irrigation. There's been some glitches. That's why we're kind of this far out from when we purchased. And actually, when we purchased these prefab restrooms, we're about 180 to 200 days out for delivery. We had hoped to do this last fall, but we ran into some glitches with location. We couldn't go back to the current location. We had to move up out of the floodplain. We had some issues with the length of the sanitary sewer system. There was an issue actually where we are going to place this just not too far to the west is a bridge abutment that's buried underground. So we had to make sure that we were out of the way there. So, just some issues we worked through. The city engineering department really did a great job taking the lead on this, as well as our consultant, NCI. Yeah, we would recommend that, the city commission would approve this contract with Kugelin Construction for $151,308. And again, this is in preparation. And once the restroom arrives, then all hookups will be done by the CXT company.
Okay, great. Thank you, Steve.
Questions? Mm-hmm.
Looking for a motion, please.
Your Honor,
Mr. Howe?
I move that the City Commission award a contract in the amount of $151,308 to Kugelin Construction for the demolition of the existing restroom and Oddfellows Park utility and site work for the new restroom, and authorize the city manager to execute the construction contract documents.
Thank you. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Tran. Okay, is there any public comment in the Gibson room?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Steve. Lisa, anyone on the telephone?
Oh, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. I'll open it up for commission discussion. Any comments or questions for our park director? Commissioner Robinson.
Your Honor, I'm curious about if we do it in the order that's planned, how long the Oddfellows Park will be without a restroom, and would it be better to do the sanitary work from the sewer and set the platform before we tear down the one that's there? I just don't know whether that even feasible or not, but I'm concerned that the Oddfellows Park will be without a restroom for quite a while we're waiting for things to come in. And it seems to me that if they could put the flat platform down now and run the sewer and all of that, then put when they come in and put it down that prefab restroom and then tear it down, it would be much better for the public.
Steve?
Yes, Your Honor, and Commissioner Robinson, I don't recall the exact phasing of this project. We do know that our priority will be that we have to have that pad and the stub ups in place prior to the restroom getting here, which should be in July, first part of July. But we can certainly talk to our consultant, see where we're at with the phasing on that, and that does make sense. Our plan is that if we do have to take the current restrooms out of service prior to the new one being open, that we would have porta-johns stationed in that park for sure.
Thank you. But if you would see if there's a possibility of just changing the order a little bit, I think that would be much better if possible. And I would say, but I appreciate the fact that you'd put up porta potties in the meantime.
Oh, absolutely. We'll look into that, the phase part of that.
Thank you.
Great. Other questions or comments, Commissioner Moe?
I just want to comment that this is a really great example of the Park District at work, and really needed in this particular area because porta potties or no, there has never been a facility there for ADA people. And they have a nice picnic area, and it's embarrassing when you take people that need ADA facilities and there's just nothing anywhere around. So this is a tremendous move forward, and I'm really glad to see it happening.
Yes, and I thank you, Commissioner Moe, and you know, the upgrade from what's currently there is tremendous. I mean, you know, you're looking at a full ADA toilet on both sides, and each side technically has 5 different urinals or different stalls, and then 2 sinks. Plus on the exterior, it has an ADA fountain with a regular drinking fountain. And where it will be situated, that, you know, just off of the current trail system. So it's still in good proximity to the pavilion and everything, and the playground and stuff too.
Okay.
Great.
Questions or comments? Okay, Steve, thanks very much. We'll take a vote now. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Raise your hand. Okay, that passes. Thank you, Director. We will go on to item number 20, and this is the construction contract award to consider bids and approve contract for the Valeria Way Storm Drain Phase 2. It's presented by another one of our directors, Paul Scabina. Go ahead, Paul.
Good evening, Your Honor, Commissioners. For the record, Paul Scabina, Public Works Director. This project asks you to consider award or not award a contract in the amount of $1,642,200 to Western Municipal Construction for the Valeria Way Phase 2 Storm Drain Project, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract documents. As Phase 2 alludes, we've done a Phase 1 project in the area. It was back in the 2012-2013 timeframe. We installed some pipe to alleviate some flooding issues from 19th Street North up to 1st Avenue North, from there to 22nd to 3rd Avenue North. Didn't quite get all the full effect that we wanted out of that project. We also do have older 1920s vintage storm drain conveyances in the area that aren't totally functioning 100%, or aren't adequate, I should say. They are functioning, they're not adequate. So the scope of this Phase 2 is to extend some additional pipe inlets and manholes, approximately 1,665 feet of 30-inch diameter storm drain, 1,330 feet of 42-inch, and get it connected into our existing system that discharges out along 15th Street Bridge. So normally I like to try to shed some light on how we prioritize it and select projects. And in this instance, I think a picture speaks 1,000 words. So Lisa, I had a quick 20-second video. Lisa, if you wouldn't mind playing that with the sound off.
I'm sorry, I forgot to load that.
All right, so what the video said, or what the video showed, is a lot of water standing everywhere, all the way up on car doors, in people's backyards, standing in the alley, et cetera, et cetera. So it just really demonstrates the need for this particular project in this area to help the residents from being continuously flooded by the more higher intensity, flashier storm events that we've been seeing. So with that, we went out to bid
advertised 3 times in the Great Falls Tribune. We did end up with 2 bids that were responsive. The lowest bid came in at the value I stated at the top of the presentation, which was actually a little bit less than our engineer's estimate. So that was a good sign. So with that, and I surmise with the concurrence of the residents of the neighborhood, staff recommends approval of the contract. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Paul. Stay right there. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Honor,
Commissioner?
I move that the City Commission award a contract in the amount of $1,642,200 to Western Municipal Construction, Inc. for the Valeria Way Storm Drain Phase 2 project and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary contract documents.
Thank you.
Second.
You have a second? Okay, very good. Is there any public comment in the Gibson room? Paul, anybody there to speak publicly?
I do not see any, Your Honor.
Okay, Lisa, anyone on the telephone?
No, Your Honor.
Public comment. Okay, is there any discussion amongst the commissioners? Commissioner Robinson.
I have a question. I'm concerned about the phasing of this project because we do have the 25th Street, which is a one-way street, and I hope that doesn't have to be closed down with the whole project being closed down, that they'll work from one side to the other, and that'll be 25th Street will be closed down for as short a time as possible. Is that even possible? I just don't know if that's possible. I don't know enough about engineering and roads and stuff.
Based on the alignment of the proposed pipe, I do not believe we'll have to close 25th. Sometimes when you get in, sorry, sir, go ahead.
The way I read it, it does one block of 25th Street. Maybe my map's wrong, or maybe I read the map wrong.
Yes, no, we are in 25th Street.
You won't have to close it down to put this. Oh, good. That's good news. All right. I just assumed that road had to be closed.
I do not believe so. I believe we'll be able to keep one lane of traffic open. Sometimes when you get into these projects and you have equipment working, you find that you do have to go ahead and close things down. We would provide appropriate signage and detours and definitely minimize the time in which we would have that through street. That's a primary collector. So we would definitely want to minimize.
That's great news. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other comments or questions for Paul? Okay, very good. Seeing none, then we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the contract award, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Raise your hand, say no. Okay, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Thanks for sticking around with us tonight. This will take us to our final item as far as agenda items here for business, and that is agenda number 21. And this is a resolution by the City Commission of Great Falls adopting a policy for the use of an automated license plate reader for parking enforcement and statistical data gathering purposes. Craig Raymond, Director of Planning and Community Development, also dealing with parking, his favorite part of the job. Craig, inform us,
That's
please.
a hot topic. That's a hot topic this week. It's just amazing. Everybody's excited about the changes that we're making to the parking program. So on November 4th, 2020, the City Commission approved the purchase of new parking enforcement equipment and software. The equipment that we are purchasing and installing include new pay stations along Central Avenue, which, by the way, you can probably drive up and start seeing some of that this week, which will replace some of the old parking meters, and also license plate recognition or LPR cameras that are mounted on a vehicle that patrols the parking enforcement district. Staff is currently working with our chosen vendors to configure the equipment for installation, as well as the accompanying software that ties it all together. We also intend to continue to increase public awareness of the changes. And there's been plenty of press releases this week and doing several interviews with TV stations as well as print media. And also in order to help the community adapt to the changing systems. One additional item that remains is to adopt the use policy related to the LPR system. According to Montana Code Annotated 46-5-117, prior to putting a license plate recognition system into service, An agency shall adopt and publicize a specific written policy governing its use. The policy shall at a minimum address the following. A, use of any database to compare data obtained by the automatic license plate reader system. B, retention of data associated with the automatic license plate reader system. C, sharing of the data with another law enforcement agency. D, training of automatic license plate reader system operators. E, supervisory oversight of automatic license plate reader system use. F, access to and security of data. G, access to data obtained by automatic license plate reader systems not operated by the law enforcement agency. And H, any other subjects related to automatic license plate reader system use by the law enforcement agency. The policy attached to resolution 10389 represents the policy that city staff, as well as our designated and contracted parking enforcement contractor, will be required to adhere to at all times. City staff is requesting that the City Commission adopt resolution 10389, supporting staff's administrative policies regarding the use of the LPR system and associated data. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. Do I have a motion, please?
Can we ask a question before the motion?
Actually, no, Owen. We need to open this up for discussion, and you can certainly ask during the presentation.
Usually you can ask of the presenter a question.
That's correct. In a public hearing, that's right. But this is just a standard.
Right.
Okay. So again, would you like to make the motion, Owen?
Sure, I'll make the motion. I move that the City Commission adopt resolution 10389, adopting a policy for the use of an automated license plate reader for parking enforcement and statistical purposes.
Very good. Do we have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Moe. Is there any public comment there in the Gibson room, Craig, or have you chased everyone away?
I've chased everyone away and there is no public comment in the Gibson room.
Okay, Lisa, is there anyone on the telephone? You're shaking your head, but I can't hear you, but I guess that means no, right?
Oh, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Then we will open this up for commission discussion or questions. Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you. Sorry for my mix up there. I'm curious about, I totally support the motion, but will we, when the policy has been written, will the commission have a second bite at the apple? Will we be able to approve the final written policy?
Good question, Commissioner. The policy has been written and is attached to the resolution in the agenda package.
So, but we're not approving. As I understand the resolution, we're adopting a thing that says you can write the policy, but we are approving the policy here now. Okay, thank you.
We're adopting the policy for the use of the LPR. Any other questions or comments for Craig Raymond? That would be coming from Commissioner Moe.
Craig, could you review for us the other cities in Montana that have LPR and similar policies?
For sure that I'm aware of, the city of Missoula and also the city of Bozeman. I'm not aware if Billings does, they may, but those two for sure I know. Because I actually received their adopted policies and basically plagiarized theirs.
Right.
And we'll send them a nice bag of candy to thank them for that.
You don't want to use that word with an English teacher.
It's the best form of flattery, I tell you what.
Other comments or questions? Mr. Tryon?
Craig, have you heard any significant privacy concerns? And, you know, are there, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's a good question. I do believe that there are always concerns with things like that. And that's specifically why the MCA was adopted and why we're adopting the policy for its use and not abuse to ensure that city staff act appropriately and provide remedies in case they don't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other comments or questions? All right, then all those in favor say aye. Oh, Commissioner Houck, excuse me, Commissioner Houck, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to jump in and say that I've actually been promoting this and championing for it and wanting to be the city that offers this. I think once we get it in place, people will understand that it's really for the benefit of them. And I'm excited. I think it'll help us. It's another move forward. It's another tool in the toolbox to make parking fair and available. So I'm excited.
And if I could add, the Parking Advisory Commission really did a good job on this and asked the questions that you've asked, Rick, and Craig has really been responsive to it. So I feel good about it.
Great. All right, thanks very much, everyone. We'll take a vote now. All those in favor of adopting resolution 10389, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and nay. All right, that passes. Thank you very much. That takes us on to the city commission item with miscellaneous reports or announcements. And I have one. At the last meeting, we discussed when we could return to actually having commission meetings down at the Civic Center, work sessions in the Gibson Room, and then back to the good old days of being in the Gibson Room. Realizing that that's probably the more effective way to do it. And certainly it was created to do it there, and really appreciate the fact that we've been able to do this type of meetings in the process. I want to recommend to my colleagues that we actually start to meet again live in the first meeting in May. And here's why. Currently, we know that a lot of people have been able to access some vaccines, although there's been a short supply in the last couple of days. But as of April 1, it'll be a full month then, the entire month of April, that virtually any person over the age of 16 in the state of Montana can sign up to get these vaccines and possibly can have them done, which will be a great help to the community. It also gives us another period of time to deal with what we all know has been out there, but we've kind of been fortunate, and that's the different variants of this disease coming forward. And I think it would give us some time to take stock and see exactly what's going out there with our county and city, and give the voters, give the people in the community a fair notice that come May, the May 1st meeting, when we have that, I think the date might be the 3rd or 4th of May, that we'll be doing it live again. So with that, I'm open for comments or suggestions, but I just feel like it'd be the responsible thing to wait until that point if we can, for those reasons. Owen, are you trying to speak? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I totally agree. I think it's that I would be a little nervous about April or even in the middle of April, but I think the beginning of May would be a good time to do it. There are a lot of people that either have had the vaccination or have had the disease, and I think that we're safe. I think we need to still require masks, even though they're not, probably by then will not be required as in public. But I think if we're going to have a meeting where people from the public come outside for safety, masks for maybe a month or two when we decide not to. But I think it's a great idea. I think we're much more efficient, and I think the public is much better served if we're not doing these through Zoom. Although I have to tell you, I think that we have made remarkable improvements through our mistakes and learning not to hit the space bar every time and assume you're not unmuted. But we've learned a lot through our mistakes. And I think our Zoom meetings have become much, much more efficient than before. But I think we can serve the public better when we do that. And I think May would be a good place to start. I agree.
Thank you, Owen. Other comments or concerns?
I think it's just helpful for the public and for all of us to have a date certain. And so I like May as well. I hope that we will look at ways to accommodate public comment in particular from people who, not for COVID reasons, but it's tremendous convenience, I think, for people who want to make public comment. And so not necessarily Zoom, but telephone.
Yeah, I
Excellent.
think, I agree, Mary. I think that we've discovered some opportunities for increased participation through electronic means and can continue to explore that and make that available to the public. So, all right, if I don't hear any objections, then I guess we're going to direct city staff May 4th. Let's try to go live with all the necessary precautions needed at the time. And I appreciate everyone's consideration for that. Other initiatives or comments from my colleagues here on the commission? Okay, it's the first time we've reached over 9 o'clock in a long time. Well done. I would like to thank Chief Jones, who I think is still sitting in the Gibson room. He started out was at the very beginning. Thank you, Jeremy, for being there. I didn't see any law enforcement tonight, but if they're in the room, I'd like to thank them as well for being there tonight. They are there. Great. Okay. And having said that, thank you, staff. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, public. I'll take a motion to adjourn, please.
I move we adjourn.
Adjourn.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Good night.